I did not and do not have any intention of this channel becoming a drama channel. I don't want to rely on it, I don't want to be consumed by it, and I don't want it to be a major component of any sort of my channel. How unfortunate it is that my first political video has to end up being something that could be described as a drama video. Here I was, working on a review of the Disney classic Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and trying to get a good setup to start a regular political talk show, inspired by the likes of the Young Turks and Secular Talk, when I noticed an interesting video on my feed. Trump 2016 by popular YouTuber The Amazing Atheist. Now, I'm not going to play the disgruntled fan card here. I haven't been a fan of his work for quite some time, if ever. Especially recently, his channel has been, shall we say, plagued with SJW boogeymen or women videos. It's not a subject I take much interest in, other than what I've seen as its detrimental effects. However, when I did watch some of Amazing Atheist's video in the past, I at least was able to identify him as a relatively left-wing guy, although mostly on religious issues. And by left-wing, I mean atheist, as his actual policies involving religion have had something of a right-wing militaristic tone to them. But it's fine. I just stopped watching his content and that was that. He can do whatever he wants. A particular video he posted several months ago caught my interest. Nuance is dead and SJW's piss on its grave. The title seemed like the logical extreme of the anti-SJW craze, and it also used a lot of poetic terminology to ultimately mean almost nothing. So I gave it a watch. The point in particular I found intriguing was how the Amazing Atheist himself noted that he was gaining a large conservative audience due to his SJW videos. I found this odd. Conservatives usually don't actively seek out channels called stuff like The Amazing Atheist, and it was something I kept in the back of my mind for a few days. During this time, the 2016 presidential primaries were in full swing, and thanks to Bernie Sanders, the election was always at the tip of my tongue and the front of my brain. I was constantly watching coverage of not only the election, but just of politics in general, as Bernie ended up being my gateway drug of sorts. Every primary night, I was sitting at my computer, refreshing results pages, watching live coverage, waiting to hear good news about Bernie becoming the nominee. Well, we all know how that turned out, but to this day, I still spend a good deal of my time reading up on all the doings of the world. With the election in mind, specifically how the mainstream media's lack and mistreatment of Bernie's campaign, it led my mind to wander towards the effects of the relatively new media scene that is the internet. And this is where the Amazing Atheist comes in. If one who prides themselves on their liberal outlook on life starts attracting a large conservative following, at least to me, this would spark a moment of self-analysis. Regardless if my message was right or not, if my content is attracting the exact opposite type of audience I'm intending to reach, and it's not because I'm convincing them to my way of thinking, but that our two ways aren't so different, I would seriously question if I was sending out the right message. But Amazing Atheist did not do this. Instead, he welcomed his new conservative audience, which he has every right to do, regardless of how I would have handled it. Fast forward a few months, and Bernie is about to officially lose the nomination, and America is stuck with the oh-so-lovely choice of Donald J. Trump or Hillary Rodham Clinton. The Amazing Atheist releases a video titled, "Idiots React to Hillary's Big Win!" in which he basically yells at people for having voted for Hillary and for not having voted for Bernie. A sentiment I shared with him, to be sure, but I found a bit of dissonance between his reaction and how he used his platform to help the Bernie fight, or rather his lack of doing so. You see, during this entire election, the vast majority of Amazing Atheist content was still geared towards SJWs, which I found to be a shame because he could have used his platform to help make real change, instead of chasing at least what I perceived to be boogeymen. But a real kicker came to me when I read a random comment on one of his videos. The comment simply asked TJ why he even supported Sanders when he was the SJW candidate. And that's when it hit me. There was a very real possibility that the anti-SJW movement actively hurt Sanders and helped Trump. To be fair, this is not a theory backed by empirical science. No numbers, just anecdotes and simple reasoning. I feel most people can agree the subject of political correctness has been a big part of this election, and it's one of Trump's main claims to fame. And that's also what the anti-SJW movement is largely against. So as I read that comment, it really hit me that as TJ made more and more SJW fear-mongering videos, he helped to create the exact atmosphere Trump needed to flourish. None of this is to say TJ is the main or sole cause of Trump's rise. TJ himself probably isn't even a percentage point. But the issue at hand here is a video TJ just released, in which he officially endorses Donald Trump. Well, not entirely. He says he probably won't vote, but he recommends anyone who does to vote for Trump. And it is in this video that I feel TJ really jumps the shark, as it's filled with the lack of reasoning any person who does end up deciding to vote for Trump should be expected to have.
For one thing, Trump is pushing the Republican Party left on some issues. For instance, Trump actually believes, or at least says he believes, in protectionism. He wants to get us out of NAFTA. He wants to make sure that TPP doesn't happen. He wants to bring American jobs back from overseas. I don't know how feasible any of that is, and I do have serious doubts about Trump's sincerity, but these strike me as left-wing positions. These strike me as anti-free market positions. These strike me as the positions of a classical Democrat before the Clintons reshaped the party into the center-right juggernaut that it is today. So, at least in terms of rhetoric, Trump is bringing the Republican Party further to the left on some issues.
To start with, TJ makes the claim that Trump is pushing the Republican Party left. This is wrong for several reasons, but to keep specifically to what is in the video, TJ mentions Trump believes in protectionism to keep our jobs in the U.S. This is simply foolhardy to even begin to believe, as Trump has outsourced his own jobs. The response to this will be, he's a businessman, he needs to outsource for the sake of profit. This is not true. It simply means one would have to take a hit to profits for the sake of keeping with their protectionist ideals. Profits will be hurt from being forced to keep jobs here, whether it's by law or by choice. And if Trump cannot be trusted to engage in protectionism on his own terms, where is there evidence to say he is truly against trade deals such as TPP and NAFTA? By outsourcing his own jobs, this says Trump is in support of shipping jobs overseas as long as it benefits him directly. And this is exactly what Hillary is guilty of, claiming to be against something, but then changing tunes once it affects her own pocket. So this is not a point for Trump. TJ does say he has doubts about Trump's sincerity, but this doesn't help anything, as Hillary is also claiming to be against TPP. This is all also ignoring the very real possibility that neither Trump or Hillary will get a say in TPP, because Obama and members of the Republican Party are making their own effort to get TPP through during the lame duck session.
And I know what some of my most ardent liberals in my audience are going to say. They're going to talk about Trump as unfit because of things like him saying on Fox and Friends that we need to target the families of terrorists, that we can't just go after ISIS. We got to go after the wives and children of ISIS fighters. Well, yeah, I agree that it's a monstrous thing that Trump said there, but guess what? Trump said it, but Obama's already doing it. 90% of drone strikes don't kill their intended targets, which to me shows that the U.S. already has a tacit position of, fuck Middle East civilians, let them die. Trump isn't the bad guy because he says things that we already do.
TJ's next point is about Trump's comments on Fox and Friends, where he said that America has to take out the families of terrorists, thus outright calling for the murder of innocent civilians. TJ's point is that while Trump's saying this is monstrous, that the current administration under Obama is already doing it. TJ is correct in saying this. Records show that drone strikes under Obama have killed estimates of 90% the wrong targets. However, TJ is missing a crucial point here. Obama is not actively calling for the murder of civilians. Civilians are just getting killed due to an incompetent foreign policy. Under Trump, we are promised a military strategy of actively seeking out non-military targets to kill, as in even more innocent people will be killed than under our current flawed drone strike system. Trump would make no effort to curb that 90% wrong target rate. He's promising to try and push it further up, although I suppose it'd go down technically because now that 90% is the right target. TJ is right to say Trump wouldn't be the bad guy to say things we already do. But he is the bad guy for saying that killing innocents should actively be our military strategy.
And people call Trump racist? Well, everything Trump says about race is already believed by scores of Americans. They know what he thinks and what he stands for, and they stand by him.
This point about Trump's bigotry is potentially TJ's most worrisome statement. He says that Trump is just saying what scores of Americans are feeling when he says the racist stuff he says, which is potentially true, but it should be noted that Trump has record unfavorability ratings, so that score of Americans who really believe in Trump is often overinflated. This is a problematic view to hold, since by this same logic, many other horrible things in history and currently could be downplayed. Was Hitler a better person for playing into the fears of Germans struck with a horrible economic depression? Hitler was only saying what scores of Germans were thinking, and they stood with him. Or even better, to use an example that TJ himself often makes videos about, Islamic fundamentalism. ISIS is just doing and saying what scores of Muslims wanted. You don't gain brownie points for spewing racist rhetoric just because it's the popular thing to do. The rest of the video is standard Trump will shake things up nonsense, but TJ actually fails to mention the many other wonderful traits of Donald Trump, such as 1. Promising to tear up the Paris Agreement day one, undoing years of essential progress towards curbing the increasingly apocalyptic effects of climate change.
We're going to cancel the Paris Climate Agreement and stop. Unbelievable.
2. Strongly suggesting that he'd be willing to default on the US dollar, which would throw the entire world into a depression.
He said, "I am the king of debt. I love debt. I love playing with it." He said that to CNBC. He also loved bankruptcies, by the way, but he didn't mention that there. He then went on to say, "I would borrow, knowing that if the economy crashed, you could make a deal. And if the economy was good, it was good. So therefore, you can't lose."
3. Promising to shut down the FDA food police, making any food, drink, or medicine we consume no longer have basic regulations to keep it safe.
The Hill explains. In a fact sheet posted online Thursday, the Trump campaign highlighted a number of specific regulations to be eliminated, including what they called the FDA food police.
4. A stop to all new government regulations, making sure that in the very likely event that any new problem whatsoever comes up, the government can do nothing to stop it.
The Republican nominee also called for a freeze on new government regulation. All right, let's talk about how disastrous this is.
5. He wants to open up libel and slander laws, making it so people like TJ, who've made fun of Trump in the past, can now be sued for doing so.
But one of the things I'm going to do if I win, and I hope I do, and we're certainly leading, is I'm going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. We're going to
6. Refusing to take nukes off the table and dealing with foreign powers, meaning Trump is willing to start a nuclear war at any time his completely stable self sees fit.
like the end of
Can
the
you
ball
tell
game.
the Middle East we're not using a nuclear weapon?
I would
on anybody?
never say that. I would never take any of my cards off the table.
How about Europe? We won't use it in Europe.
I'm not going to take it off the table.
You might
for
use it in
anybody.
Europe?
No, I don't think so. But I'm
well,
not
just
taking,
say it. I'll
Look,
never use a nuclear
I am
weapon in
not-
Europe.
I am not taking cards off the table.
7. Bringing back torture, thus ensuring an inhumane act that has been proven to not work is brought back in full force.
I would bring back waterboarding, and I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding.
8. He gets to nominate the next Supreme Court judge, thus doing permanent damage to one of the three main branches of government even after he leaves office.
We're talking about some real, true, what am I looking for? Honest to God extremists here. Raymond Grender, for example, incredibly anti-abortion.
9. He signed an agreement with the anti-porn group Enough is Enough to crack down on porn laws, putting our precious porn in jeopardy.
He will fight porn tooth and nail. Let me give you the details on that. According to the Huffington Post, Trump has promised not only to fight child pornography and sex trafficking, but give serious consideration to appointing a presidential commission to examine the harmful public health impact of internet pornography on youth, families, and the American culture.
10. He surrounds himself with such savory characters as Roger Ailes, former Fox News CEO and current sexual predator.
New York Times reports Mr. Ailes is aiding Mr. Trump's team as it turns its attention to the first debate with Hillary Clinton, the Democratic nominee, on September 26th at Hofstra. According to 4 people briefed on the move who insisted on anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the matter. So they don't have one source, they don't have 2 sources, they have 4 sources. And these are sources inside the Trump campaign.
My final point on this video is really a simple question. Why Trump? TJ says he doesn't like Hillary or Trump, and probably won't even vote, but third-party candidates do exist. Why actively encourage your viewers to vote for Trump when you can use your platform to advocate for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson? Are they likely to win? No. That doesn't matter if you don't have any desire to see Trump or Hillary win. And a vote for third party actually does some good to our political system by showing an increase in support for a bigger selection in candidates. Instead of telling your viewers to vote for a monster, be the one to help usher in a new wave of informed voters who know to look past Republican and Democrat and vote based on policy substance.